Gwendolyn is sobbing and Robin's trying to console her. This grief comes out of me and I wailed. And that's when I first, I think, became really aware
Going
that
on, and
this.
he's on the phone, and he's just like, he's like, Garrison.
And she called me and told me that she was, and I was like, oh, weird, I was just about to call you. And she said,
The sun beats down on the Arizona desert, casting long, unforgiving shadows across 14 acres of empty red earth. Coyote Pass. The family had called it years ago, but now it feels more like a battlefield than a dream. Robin stands a few feet from the land, her hands tied at her sides, watching the papers and agreements that seem to define her future more than the sun-soaked ground beneath her feet. Janelle is just a few steps away, her eyes scanning the horizon with the kind of practicality that never sleeps. Both women know the stakes, but each sees them through a different lens. For Robin, this is about protection, about making sure the past, her first marriage, the courthouse steps, the legal battles, never repeats itself. For Janelle, this is about trust, about moving forward before the dream crumbles entirely. And right there in the middle, Cody moves quietly, fragmenting the story for everyone, giving half-truths and selective promises that leave gaps filled with suspicion. The tension is palpable. Every glance, every gesture feels loaded, as if the slightest movement could trigger an explosion. But when does protecting yourself become controlling someone else? That question hangs heavy in the air, unanswered, echoing louder than any argument could. Mary drifts quietly along the edge of the land, caught between hope and fear, remembering decades of investment, both emotional and financial. Christine's youngest clings to her hip, and even she senses the unspoken tension that ripples through the group. Each wife carries a piece of the past, each memory shaping the way they see the present. Robin's careful attention to legal ownership, her insistence on safeguards and guarantees, feels like prudence to her. But to the others, it looks like a slow tightening of control. But what happened next changed everything, and nobody saw it coming. Offers that once promised relief and progress stalled. Conversations meant to unite the family erupted into misunderstandings. The land, meant to be a symbol of shared dreams, now sits stagnant, almost mocking in its silence. Beneath the calm desert sun, tensions rise quietly, like smoke curling from a fire no one wants to admit is burning. Each woman waits, eyes fixed on the horizon, wondering who will move first and who will be left behind when the ground finally shifts. In the previous episodes, we watched the Brown family grapple with the mess of Coyote Pass, a 14-acre dream turned complicated nightmare. The land was supposed to bring them together, a fresh start, a shared vision of unity. Instead, it became the perfect stage for old fears, clashing personalities, and questions of trust and control. The last time we saw them, tensions were already simmering. Robin was insisting on safeguards and legal protections. Janelle was trying to keep everything moving, eyes on the clock and the numbers. Mary floated somewhere in between, holding on to the hope that the dream could survive if only everyone agreed. Christine quietly hung back, offering optimism and faith that somehow they could all find common ground. Cody, as always, hovered in the background, a pivot of unpredictability. He offered guidance, fragments of reassurance, tailored to each wife in a way that never quite aligned. One moment he promised swift resolution to Janelle, the next he whispered patience to Robin, and Mary got the vague comfort of, "We'll figure it out." And the children, of course, were caught in the middle, learning lessons about adult tensions without knowing the full story. Janelle's practicality has always been her defining trait. She tracks the numbers, runs spreadsheets, maps out timelines, and expects the family to follow along. She believes clarity and transparency will solve most problems. Robin, on the other hand, carries a different kind of weight. Her past marriage ended in legal consequences that left her vulnerable. She knows firsthand how quickly trust and promises can be overturned when only names on a document hold power. Every clause, every inda, every signature she requests is rooted in survival. But to the others, it often reads as obstruction or control. You know that feeling when someone keeps rewriting the rules? Yeah, that's Robin right now, and it's driving everyone crazy. Mary leans on nostalgia. She remembers the early dreams of the family, the time, effort, and love poured into building a life together. She wants to believe in the vision, even as doubt creeps in. Christine, meanwhile, remains hopeful, balancing realism with optimism, trying to see a path forward when the rest of the family sees dead ends. And then, just when you think things are settling, the first serious offer comes in, and it blows up. All the careful planning, all the spreadsheets and NDAs can't contain the storm that follows. Arguments flare, miscommunication multiplies, and the calm that seemed to be taking hold evaporates. The land sits quietly, waiting, almost laughing at the chaos it has inspired, while the family struggles to decide if they can ever see eye to eye. Every decision, every demand, every hesitation pushes them further into conflict, and the weight of the past threatens to crush any chance of moving forward together. Coyote Pass was supposed to be the next chapter, a place where the Brown family could finally breathe, build, and create something lasting together. 14 acres of open land, sun-baked and full of possibility, yet heavy with expectation. For years they had talked about it, dreamed about it, imagined a life where each wife and child had space, but still felt connected. Every tree, every corner of that land carried hope. But hope, as it turns out, doesn't pay bills, and it certainly doesn't fix legal complications. The dream collided with reality faster than anyone expected. Stalled sales, paperwork delays, and endless back-and-forth arguments replaced the excitement of ownership. Every meeting, every phone call seemed to uncover new problems rather than solutions. Janelle's frustration mounted. She tried to keep schedules, make sense of contracts, push the process forward. She wanted clarity. She wanted action. But every step forward seemed met with hesitation or resistance. Meanwhile, Robin's caution wasn't just a quirk. It was survival. She couldn't ignore the mistakes of the past or the dangers of rushing into something without protections. To her, every signature mattered. Every clause in a contract was armor. Cody's role in all of this only added more tension. He floated between them, offering reassurance, advice, and promises, yet somehow never aligning the family under a single plan. One moment he seemed to back Janelle's push for progress. The next he was urging Robin to hold fast, giving both women hope, but keeping them just frustrated enough to remain off balance. His mixed signals left cracks wide open for misunderstanding, leaving everyone guessing where they stood. And here's where it gets wild. The first serious buyer almost walks, and no one knows why. Emails went unanswered, calls missed, terms misinterpreted. What should have been progress instantly turned into chaos. Every misstep was magnified because of the personal stakes involved. It wasn't just land. It wasn't just money. It was years of dreams, trust, and family cohesion teetering on the edge. The land sits empty now, the promise of unity fading under the harsh sun. The family drifts in different directions, caught between what could have been and what is. Arguments linger longer, silences weigh heavier, and the shared dream that once bonded them now feels fragile, almost unreachable. Every glance across the red dirt, every hesitation in conversation, reminds them that the vision of Coyote Pass is still alive. But so is the reality that keeps it just out of reach. Robin stands on the edge of the Coyote Pass property, papers in hand, eyes scanning the horizon as if the land itself holds answers. Every decision she makes now is shadowed by the lessons of her past. Her first marriage ended with legal battles she never wants to repeat. Every misstep then cost her more than money. It cost her freedom, trust, and peace of mind. She carries that memory like a weight, and it drives her insistence on being meticulous now. For Robin, this isn't stubbornness or control, it's survival. She studies the contracts with careful precision, reviewing NDAs, ownership clauses, and contingency agreements. Each word matters. One line overlooked could unravel years of planning and place her in a vulnerable position. Robin knows that what seems like simple paperwork to some holds power and protection for her. Trust is a fragile thing, and she's learned the hard way that without legal safeguards, good intentions can evaporate into disputes. But her caution isn't easy to balance. She wants to move forward, to be part of the shared vision. Yet every decision carries risk. Signing without clarity could undo everything she's worked to protect. Every glance at Janelle, every conversation with Cody, makes her wonder if she's asking too much or doing too little. She feels the tension inside her, a push and pull between wanting to trust and needing to survive. And then the midpoint comes, the real test of her resolve. If she signs without guarantees, she risks losing everything, and she knows it. One clause could shift ownership. One missing signature could hand control away from her, and all the precautions she's taken for years would vanish. It's a pressure cooker of fear, responsibility, and hope. Robin cannot afford to gamble. She cannot ignore what her past taught her. Yet, from the other side, her actions look different. To Janelle, they seem like unnecessary obstruction. To Christine, they might appear cautious to the point of stalling progress. Mary watches quietly, unsure where to stand, torn between empathy and frustration. The problem isn't Robin's caution alone, it's the way it contrasts with the family's desire for movement. Every protective measure she demands, every legal detail she insists on, creates ripples of tension. The land sits between them like a silent judge. Robin's careful steps are meant to preserve the family's dream and her own security, but the others see control. Arguments flare silently in glances and half-spoken words. And under the desert sun, the cracks widen, leaving one question unanswered. Can trust and survival ever coexist? Or is the family destined to fracture before progress is made? Janelle stands in front of the papers spread across the kitchen table, her fingers tapping impatiently. She has tracked every deadline, logged every phone call, and documented every agreement. To her, the path forward seems clear: act decisively, communicate openly, and keep the process moving. But with Robin's constant insistence on additional safeguards, every step forward feels like 2 steps back. Janelle's frustration isn't about being difficult. It's about seeing the dream stall while opportunities slip away. The emotional toll is heavy. Hours of planning, careful coordination, and effort to maintain harmony are met with hesitation and resistance. Stress presses down, anger simmers under polite tones, and resentment begins to creep in. She remembers past promises, the trust she placed in Robin to honor agreements, and the sense that the family could finally align. That trust feels strained, and Janelle finds herself questioning intentions, replaying conversations, and wondering why caution feels like obstruction. She thought everything was moving forward until Robin's next demand hit. Another clause, another requirement, another pause in the process. What should have been a simple decision became a debate, testing patience and tolerance. Janelle can see Robin's perspective, sure, but the repeated delays make it feel personal, almost like a roadblock designed to assert power rather than protect. The frustration gnaws at her, turning strategy into emotional weight, leaving little room for compromise. And the problem isn't one-sided. Robin sees Janelle as rushing, pushing too fast, ignoring the potential consequences. Both perspectives feel justified, both feel critical, and Cody remains a ghost in the middle, offering guidance but no resolution. Each wife feels alone in her interpretation of events, left to navigate the tension without a clear path forward. The land sits quiet, empty, as deals stall and trust erodes. Misunderstandings multiply, conversations stretch into frustration, and isolation grows between the wives. Janelle's meticulous efforts, meant to unite and move the family ahead, instead highlight the fractures that already exist. Every carefully planned action meets resistance, every attempt at transparency sparks debate, and the emotional fallout settles over Coyote Pass like the relentless desert sun. Relentless and unavoidable. Cody moves through the house with a quiet authority that carries more weight than anyone admits. He speaks carefully, choosing his words depending on who he's talking to. To Janelle, he's practical, supportive, focused on timelines and strategy. To Robin, he's cautious, patient, emphasizing safeguards and the need for protection. To Mary, he's reflective, nostalgic, reminding her of past successes and shared memories. Christine gets reassurance, a gentle nudge of hope that things will work out if they remain patient. Each message feels right to the recipient, yet taken together, they form a web of contradictions that no one can untangle. This fragmented communication fuels conflict without him meaning to. Each wife walks away from conversations with slightly different expectations, feeling either encouraged or frustrated. Decisions appear inconsistent, and actions that seem clear to one person feel like obstruction to another. One day he's warm and assuring, offering confidence that the sale will move forward. The next, he's distant and frustrated, leaving a lingering sense of doubt that no one can quite articulate. Every conversation leaves room for misinterpretation, and tension builds in the quiet spaces between words. He doesn't speak with malice, but the impact is unavoidable. Meetings that should be productive dissolve into arguments. Emails meant to clarify responsibilities become sources of suspicion. A comment made in passing to Robin about needing patience is interpreted by Janelle as undermining her efforts. A suggestion to Mary about letting the process unfold feels to Christine like indecision. Each woman reacts based on her perspective, and Cody is the constant variable they all measure themselves against. The wives start questioning him. But is he really the problem, or just the trigger? The question hangs in the air as discussions stretch late into the day, the desert sun fading into evening while tensions remain. Everyone is waiting for someone to move decisively, yet no one is fully aligned. Frustration grows quietly into resentment, and emotional fractures that were always under the surface begin to show more clearly. The land waits silently, reflecting the stalled decisions and mounting uncertainty. Cody's intentions, however measured, can't prevent the ripples from spreading. Every interaction, every carefully chosen word, leaves the family slightly further apart, and the very bonds meant to hold them together feel stretched thin. The hope of unity seems just out of reach, suspended between trust, miscommunication, and the invisible pressures that Cody, willingly or not, has created. Robin sits across from Janelle at the small kitchen table, the air thick with tension. Robin's hands rest calmly on her lap, her voice measured, careful, choosing words that protect without provoking. She explains her concerns about contracts, clauses, and legal safeguards, each sentence delivered with precision. To an outsider, she seems composed, almost serene. But every pause, every careful word carries weight, her past mistakes, her fears, her need to survive, all riding on this conversation. Janelle, in stark contrast, leans forward, eyes sharp, tone direct. She doesn't soften her words, doesn't pause for reflection. Facts, dates, missed deadlines, stalled progress. She lays them out with clarity that borders on accusation. Her frustration spills over, controlled but unmistakable. We followed every step, every timeline, she says. Why can't we just move forward? Robin listens, nods, but doesn't flinch. She's protecting herself and the dream she believes is still worth saving. Yet her restraint only seems to fuel Janelle's frustration. When Robin finally speaks, it feels calm until Janelle fires back. The room vibrates with the tension of clashing perspectives. Each statement, each clarification, feels like a test of patience and endurance. Arguments rise, then settle, then flare again. Each woman believes she is acting in the best interest of the family, yet their definitions of best diverge sharply. And in the middle, Cody's presence, or lack of decisive guidance, leaves the space between them wide and exposed. The question lingers quietly as voices rise and fall. Who's really holding the power here? Is it Robin, with her meticulous attention to legal detail, or Janelle, with her relentless drive to move forward? Or is it the land itself, the contracts, the shared history of dreams and disappointments that keeps them both tethered and at odds? Every glance, every subtle gesture, every sigh carries meaning, and the emotional weight of the moment presses down. Elsewhere, Mary and Christine watch, feeling the ripple of the confrontation. They weigh in cautiously, offering perspective, but even their voices can't bridge the gap that has grown between Robin and Janelle. The tension doesn't resolve neatly, it lingers, stubborn and persistent. The land, the money, and the emotions hang in the balance, as if waiting for someone, anyone, to tip the scales. Every decision, every word, every action feels critical, and the stakes are higher than they've ever been. Nothing is settled, and the sense of uncertainty stretches across the property like the desert horizon, endless and relentless. As the latest episode aired, social media lit up like a wildfire. Fans couldn't stop talking about Coyote Pass, and the tension between Robin and Janelle became the center of every conversation. Some viewers immediately labeled Robin the victim, seeing her cautious approach and insistence on legal safeguards as a form of self-preservation. They understood the weight of her past, the lessons she learned the hard way, and praised her for protecting herself in a situation where trust alone could have cost her everything. Others weren't so sympathetic. To them, Robin's caution looked controlling, an unnecessary barrier that stalled progress and frustrated the rest of the family. Janelle's position sparked just as much debate. Her practical, methodical approach earned respect from fans who admired her organization and transparency. She had spreadsheets, deadlines, and plans, and many argued that without her push, the family's dream would have stagnated completely. Yet others argued she was rigid, impatient, and unwilling to see Robin's perspective, painting her as equally controlling. The comment sections became battlegrounds, with viewers weighing every decision, every pause, and every word exchanged on the show. And the internet exploded when this one clip surfaced, Robin calmly explaining a legal clause while Janelle's frustration built visibly, her voice sharp, her hands tense. Fans dissected it frame by frame, some siding with Robin, pointing out the necessity of her caution, while others sided with Janelle, emphasizing the missed opportunities and the stalled sale. Twitter threads, YouTube comments, and TikTok recaps buzzed nonstop. Memes, reaction videos, and opinion threads multiplied, each interpreting the same footage in entirely different ways. One group called Robin the protector, another called her the roadblock. Some labeled Janelle practical and strategic, while others saw her as rigid and impatient. The debates didn't stay online. Families watching together argued in living rooms, friends texted screenshots, and fans found themselves emotionally invested in the outcome. Some viewers admitted they felt torn, understanding both sides, recognizing the stakes each woman faced. Others picked a side immediately, defending their perspective with passion, quoting lines, recalling previous episodes, and even rewatching old footage for context. The social media frenzy highlighted the power of perception. Robin's careful, deliberate approach could be heroic or controlling depending on who watched. Janelle's push for progress could be logical or insensitive. And Cody's absence from clear resolution only amplified the divide, leaving fans projecting their frustrations onto him as well. By the end of the week, the conversation online mirrored the conflict in the house. The family remained divided, and viewers found themselves forced to choose sides emotionally. The arguments, the tension, and the uncertainty weren't contained within the desert property. They spilled into living rooms, timelines, and comment threads across the country. The land, the contracts, the emotions, all hung in the balance, leaving the audience questioning who is right, who is wrong, and can anyone truly bridge the growing gap between protection and control? Janelle sits alone on the porch, eyes tracing the horizon of Coyote Pass, imagining a world that doesn't exist. In her mind, she pictures an island where the wives interact without Cody hovering between them, where decisions aren't filtered through his fragmented guidance. She envisions clarity, direct communication, and perhaps even unity. In this imagined space, conversations are simple, intentions transparent, and trust doesn't feel like a gamble. Misunderstandings vanish before they take root, and each woman acts without the weight of expectation or fear. But reality refuses to bend to imagination. Here on the red dirt of Arizona, miscommunication dominates every interaction. Messages are filtered, intentions misread, and patience runs thin. Trust is fragile, isolated in pockets of the family rather than shared broadly. Moments of connection are fleeting, often interrupted by half-spoken words, forgotten promises, or conflicting advice from Cody. The dream of unity, the one they all clung to for so long, feels like it belongs to another life, a story they once told themselves but can no longer fully believe. Janelle reflects on missed opportunities, the times agreements could have moved forward, the moments she wished someone had listened differently or acted with less fear. Every stalled sale, every hesitation, every legal safeguard that slows progress feels like a fork in the road where things could have gone another way. She wonders how much of the tension is natural and how much is constructed by circumstance, by the overlapping perspectives that make compromise nearly impossible. But the question remains, would things have been different without him? Cody's presence, his careful but fragmented role, creates a web that traps them all. His intentions are good, but the effect is separation, leaving each wife to navigate her own fears, hopes, and frustrations alone. The sun dips lower over the horizon, casting long shadows across the land. The questions hang in the air, heavy and unresolved. Every imagined scenario, every what-if, presses on the family in silence. The land waits, the deals remain in limbo, and the emotional fractures show no sign of healing. Janelle's reflection is as much about hope as it is about loss, and the tension lingers like the desert heat, leaving the family and the audience with one persistent, unanswerable thought. What might have been if the pieces had fallen differently? The dust settles slowly over Coyote Pass, but the tension doesn't. Weeks of stalled deals, careful clauses, and endless conversations leave the family caught between protection and control, truth and perception. Robin's caution, rooted in the scars of her past, clashes with Janelle's drive to move forward. Mary hopes for compromise, Christine holds on to optimism, and Cody drifts in the middle, well-meaning but inconsistent. Every choice, every word, every pause has consequences, and the emotional weight of those decisions presses down harder than the desert sun. It's a delicate balance between safeguarding what you love and holding too tightly, between asserting your perspective and listening to others. The land, once a symbol of unity and shared dreams, has become a mirror of fractured relationships. Contracts, NDAs, and clauses may protect Robin legally, but they also deepen the divide. Each wife navigates her own fears and expectations, and the question that lingers over every interaction is impossible to answer easily. Who is right? Who is wrong? Who carries the heaviest burden? The family's future is uncertain, and the land sits silently, reflecting the chaos that words and intentions have created. Every viewer has witnessed the clashes, the moments of restraint, the eruptions of frustration, and the quiet longing for understanding. It's a story without neat resolutions, where moral lines blur and every action is weighed differently depending on perspective. The stakes are not just legal or financial, they are emotional, relational, and deeply human. Next time, the tension explodes. One wife finally says enough, and the consequences ripple through the family in ways no one could anticipate. Arguments that have simmered for weeks will boil over. Decisions that have been delayed will demand resolution. And the fragile threads holding this family together will be tested like never before. And now, here's the question for you. Watching from your living room, if you were in Robin's place, would you protect yourself at all costs? Or would you trust the family to move forward together? Every decision carries risk. Every action shapes the story. And your perspective matters just as much as theirs. The sun dips low behind the red dirt, casting long shadows over the property. The land, the contracts, the emotions, they all hang in limbo. The family waits, the viewers wait, and the story refuses to let go. Whatever happens next, one thing is certain. Coyote Pass is more than land. It's a test of loyalty, trust, and survival. And no one leaves unchanged. Who will bend? Who will break? And who will find a way forward? Only time will tell.